And now we got to get into the Canary Mission here. And like I said, it might be kind of a dangerous one. It's just so... It's frustrating because this stuff, these kinds of stories, just play into exactly what I'm saying. That's probably the most frustrating thing is I could tell a normal, like a normie person my beliefs, and they'd be like, well, you know, you're obviously a very smart and handsome guy. They would say, look, you're so handsome that if I'm a woman, like, I desire you. And if I'm a man, I want to be you. And you're just so eloquent. You have such a way with words. Like, I want to be your friend. I want to hang out with you. And I just crave you, you know, but where was I even going with this? But then they would say, however, but I'm not really totally sold on this. You know, you're talking about Jewish conspiracies. You're talking about mass immigration. You're talking about pronatalism. I don't know if I buy it. But in each case, there's just copious hard evidence for everything that I'm saying. Like with Canary Mission, what I'm about to show you, it's like everything that I've ever said on the show. Anything that Right Wing Watch has ever called me on, it's like, what? Yeah, that's really bigoted, Nick, or whatever. So it's all right here, black and white, and from Israeli media too. That's what makes it so frustrating. Where it's like, no, really, look, it's all right here. I did a whole whiteboard and everything, but you know, the conditioning is so strong that people are not really susceptible to it. So I'm going to whip out here. I know you guys are excited. It's been a little while since we did a whiteboard. Been about a week. I'll have to adjust my brightness level and move out of the way here. Just give me one moment to adjust my settings. One of these days we're going to have Bryce do it. You know, I'll have two computers and Bryce will take care of this stuff. Well, now I look all dark. But that's the way it has to be, I guess. So you can see the writing. Okay. Let me scoot over a little bit so you can see me. And so basically, the Canary Mission organization, actually, you know what? I'll read the summary that was provided by Haaretz. Everything that I'm about to tell you is from Israeli media. It's either from the Forward or it's from Haaretz. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. I don't care. I'm not Jewish. I'm American and I'm Christian, so I don't really care. People are going to be, actually, it's pronounced this way. It's Haaretz and it's the Forward, two Israeli media companies. That's where all the information is from. And I'll read you their summary of what Canary Mission is. They say that, quote, for 3 years, a website called Canary Mission has spread fear among undergraduate activists, posting more than 1,000 political dossiers on student supporters of Palestinian rights. The dossiers are meant to harm students' job prospects and have been used in interrogations by Israeli security officials. Now, for the first time, the Forward has definitively identified a major donor to Canary Mission. It is a foundation controlled by the Jewish Community Federation of San Francisco, a major Jewish charity with an annual budget of over $100 million. So we'll get into it, but that's Canary Mission. Actually, before I get into the whiteboard, I want to show you just like what they do, just so you get an idea of what this is. This is their this is their hit piece on me, okay? And, you know, thanks, guys. Thanks for using the most flattering picture. There's so many pictures of me out there, and they choose the one where I look like a balloon. My head looks like a party balloon. And but this is the gist of it. Occupation, student, university, BU, alt-right university, I guess. Close connections, Susan, I don't even know who that is. Sean McCaffrey, who's our boy, Prince Hubris. David Feiner, who I don't know. Alexa Moore, who I don't know. Richard Spencer, who I've met before. This guy who I don't know. This guy who I don't know. This guy who I don't know. So the overview, Nick Fuentes attended a white nationalist rally in Charlottesville, Virginia, blah, blah. Anti-Israel. This is why they targeted me, by the way, for these comments. On February 15, 2017, Fuentes tweeted, quote, Netanyahu says U.S. and Israel have common interests. NJF doesn't buy it. Watch on America First. Yeah, I know that's a really hateful anti-Israel thing to say. On February 15, 2017, Fuentes said on YouTube that part of conservative orthodoxy for the last 20 years was a desire to do, quote, everything for Israel. Israel's about to be destroyed, and we must give them our aid. We must submit to them. True, 100% factual, but that's my Israel hatred, and that's why they did a dossier on me with pictures, links, whatever, and they do this. Look at this. with, a lot of them are Muslim, because they target anybody that's pro-Palestinian, anybody that's anti-Israel, and it's all very much like you say one thing out of line and you've got a dossier. And now, a lot of these people, nice, a lot of these people, they don't have a media following like me. I guess none of them. So these are just people who are students, they're nobodies, whatever, they're in student government, and they happen to have an opinion about Israel that is against Israel's right-wing Likud government, and they end up literally on a hit list, on a watch list, that, like the foreword says, is used in Israeli security official interrogations, used to harm job prospects. They've got, and you understand the purpose of this. It's so that for any student, let's pick any one. Let's pick a white one. A lot of them are Muslim. Let's pick Timothy Adams. So that Timothy Adams, who supports BDS and was involved in the OSU Divest campaign, they do this so that if any Jewish person finds this guy, they can send this little profile, this little dossier, over to their employer and say, yeah, this guy's a radical Jew hater, like Ezra Levant style, Jew hater, and you should fire him. So that's this organization. And now we're going to show you who's behind it. They've done it to me. They've done it to many other people. We'll show you who's behind it. So let me get back to my notes here. So it's funded by, long story short, I'm going to spoil it for you. At the top of the hierarchy here is the San Francisco Jewish Federation. They go through several front organizations to get their money to Canary Mission. Now, for context, the San Francisco Jewish Federation is one of the largest Jewish organizations in North America. It has $800 million in assets, $100 million in annual income. And you wonder where they get that. Jewish Federation, gee. It's part of the North American Jewish Federation. Isn't that kind of weird? Isn't that kind of weird that, these very, very powerful Jewish people are federating? They're coming together in supranational, national, regional, state, local organizations to organize and advance Jewish interests. Man, I don't know. That seems kind of off. I don't have any problem with it, but it seems kind of like conspicuous, a little suspicious that this happens. It's almost, almost sounds a little too crazy to be real, but here it is. So they give money to the Helen Diller Family Foundation. The Helen Diller Family Foundation is a supporting charity of the San Francisco Jewish Federation. So it says here that the Diller Foundation is organized as a supporting foundation of the Jewish Community Federation of San Francisco, an arrangement that confers certain regulatory benefits. The San Francisco Federation, for example, appoints the majority of members of the boards of directors of its supporting foundations. So this organization appoints the majority of board members on the Helen Diller Family Foundation. And it's basically a subsidiary of the San Francisco Jewish Federation. Their job is to carry out tasks for the SFJF. And this is according to the forward, quote, the president, this is for the Helen Diller Foundation, the president of its board, real estate developer Jocelyn Safier, sits on the board of visitors of the University of California, Berkeley, and is a distinguished director of a foundation that supports University of California, San Francisco. Another board member of the Helen Diller Foundation is Richard Rosenberg, the former chairman and chief executive of Bank of America. Board member is chief executive, former chairman of Bank of America. So understand, Canary Mission, who's connected to these organizations. One of them, the Helen Diller Family Foundation, one of their board members is a very powerful guy at the University of California, San Francisco. Another is the former chairman of Bank of America. Gee, man, that really makes me think, don't you? $800 million in assets, Bank of America down here. And so basically the discovery that was made is that the Helen Diller Foundation accidentally put in their public filings a note that showed that they had $100,000 earmarked for Canary Mission. And so basically they had this number. They wanted it to go to Canary Mission through Megamot Shalom as they gave it to the Central Fund of Israel. So basically how this works is that here up top you have the San Francisco Jewish Federation. They've got all the money, they've got all the power. They have these supporting charities that kind of do their dirty work, that carry out their activities, that carry out their projects and funds and whatever. And they appoint all the members of the board of this organization, very powerful people, clearly. Then what the Helen Diller Family Foundation does is they say, okay, we can't be connected to this officially, but we've got $100,000. We wanted to go to Canary Mission through this very, very shady organization called Megamat Shalom. And what they do is they give it to the Central Fund of Israel. They give it to this organization, which is basically like a money laundering organization located in Israel. So they send it abroad to Israel, to this organization, which basically makes it so that you can donate to right-wing causes tax exempt by going through Israel, and then the Central Fund directs it to this charity, which basically runs and operates Canary Mission. And they say that this Megamat Shalom, this is also, both of these are located in Israel. This organization is like a very shady place. Their headquarters, they've got pigeon droppings all over the place. There's boot marks on the door for people trying to knock it in. They've got boarded up windows. Very shady thing, and this charity runs Canary Mission. And so just understand what we're saying here. This organization, which is, like, imagine if the Russian government was doing this. That if Russians were running an organization that says, anybody who smears Russia, we've got a dossier on you. You're an 18-year-old kid who attended a protest one time. We're going to send that to your employers. We're going to ruin your life. We're going to interrogate you, whatever. And that's what this is with Canary Mission, but with Israel. This is funded by, through all these different channels, through international, through Israel, through back channels. It's illegal. It's money laundering. It goes all the way up to an $800 million organization, the Jewish San Francisco Federation, where they've got people that run Bank of America sitting on their constituent boards. And so I'll give you some more information. Megamat Shalom, and this is according to the foreword, quote, appears to be an Israeli public benefit corporation that operates or operated Canary Mission. Jonathan Bash, who the forward previously identified as the person who operates Canary Mission, signed the charity's 2016 financial reports. So basically, Canary Mission is run by this guy, Jonathan Bash, who happens to have signed the financial reports for this charity. They say, according to filings with Israel's charities registry, Megamat Shalom was set up in July 2016, just over a year after Canary Mission's website appeared online. Its mission, according to the filings, is to, quote, ensure the national image and strength of the State of Israel via the use of information disseminated by technological means. So that's Megamat Shalom, that's Canary Mission. And then on the side here, you might see we've got Robert Spencer and we've got Project Veritas, because we also found out that the Helen Diller Foundation, which gives money to Canary Mission, which they have this $100,000 earmarked for that organization to ruin people's lives, they also are supporters of Project Veritas, which is James O'Keefe, you might have remembered from the election in 2016, and Robert Spencer and Pamela Geller. It says, according to Haaretz, quote, another group funded by Diller is the American Freedom Defense Initiative, which was created by Robert Spencer and Pamela Geller to oppose the alleged spread of Islamic law across the United States. According to the documents, the Federation also supported a foundation initiated by populist far-right Dutch politician Geert Wilders, who has campaigned against the Islamization of his country and stopping all Muslim immigration. And lastly, these include the highly controversial Project Veritas, run by conservative activist and provocateur James O'Keefe, who uses stealth videos to try to smear left-wing groups and journalists. And so you almost have to wonder, when you see what's going on here, is there something more to the story? In the sense that clearly what we see, to get to the fundamentals of it, you might not be troubled by Canary Mission, and you might not be troubled by this particular flow chart, this particular graph, but what it says more largely is that clearly there is a Jewish interest, there is a Jewish lobby in America, and it exists internationally, by the way. It's in San Francisco. They promote liberal causes, they promote right-wing causes. And there is an international Jewish interest. It organizes, it's active, it's moneyed, it has very powerful people behind it, and they are working to advance the interests of their people, of their country, Israel, at the expense of America's interests. And they do this using all sorts of unscrupulous methods, such as using money laundering, going through Israel, funding organizations used to intimidate people. Beyond that, another scope of their activities is to fund our own side. It's a little thing called controlled opposition. And so you might start to think, gee, why is it that all these alt-right characters don't want to associate with people like me who put America first patriots, nationalists, young guys? Why is it that people like me are untouchable? Why is it that anybody who attacks Israel is untouchable, even in the most right-wing fringe movements? Perhaps could it be because everybody in the right wing is taking a check in some form or another from Israel in some fashion, or from some Jewish organization? That's obviously the case with James O'Keefe. What do you think would happen if James O'Keefe came on my show? What do you think would happen to his organization, Project Veritas? If he came on my show, do you think how much money? $100,000 that went to his organization in 2016. Do you think that would dry up if he went on my show after what I've said about Israel? But of course, what we have to realize is that Israel's interests go against ours. And it is necessary to criticize Israel because Israel wants war with Iran and they want us to fight that war. Israel wants $3.8 billion a year. They want our tech. They want our secrets. And we can't give it to them. So if you're America first, you have to oppose this country. But if you want the money, if you want the play, if you want on the inside baseball, you can't say any of that stuff. So I think that the takeaway from this whole story is not that there's this, one charity and there's this one organization that does some dirty work. It shows you this is just what's been exposed to us. This is just one example. This is one little story. It's another Bronx tale of what happens every day in America when you have these major Jewish organizations, when you have Israel hurting our interests, and you have controlled opposition. And here it is. And this is not, again, because I don't always like to talk about this because you tend to get pigeonholed. You talk about this stuff and automatically you're an anti-Semite. You're a Jew hater, according to Ezra Levant. But clearly that's not the case. This is simply factual, simply based on the evidence from Israeli media. And the message is not, anything hateful. It's not anything discriminatory. It's simply can't have it. We can't have that in our country. This is the United States of America. We have to put America first. And that's against every country. There's no question as to whether or not we should put America above China or whether we should put America above Russia. And we have to put America above Israel in America. And these groups clearly have a bias. Ben Shapiro told me on Twitter, I think in 2015 or 2016, that the surest sign of anti-Semitism is to accuse a Jew of being Israel first. I don't think that's anti-Semitic. I think it's patriotic, actually. You're here, that's fine, that's great. There's a lot of right-wing Jews who I'm a fan of, who I'm friends with a lot of Jews. I love them. You can watch a lot of my shows. I talk about how much I love them. I've got Jews all over my library, people like Gottfried who've done tremendous work. But what has to stop is the self-serving, the self-interested identity politics of these people. Either we all get to play, and therefore you're going to see some pretty nasty white identity politics, or you can't pretend, that you're really in favor of equality and egalitarianism and patriotism. Because how many times are we going to be lectured by these people about what it means to be an American and what are our American values? You've got Brett Stevens of the New York Times, who used to write for the Jerusalem Post, debating whether or not Donald Trump is good for the Jews, and during that debate saying how, America is this, America is that. Well, I don't think you really are an authority on what America is or isn't. Maybe you are an authority on what Israel is or isn't, which is clearly naked, ruthless, unscrupulous self-interest. I wish we were more like them. So that's Canary Mission. There's your little whiteboard there. Pretty outrageous that this stuff happens, and I'm the bad guy for pointing it out right now. Now all the media comes after me, and that's how it's been since Charlottesville. Pretty outrageous that that's our country.